Hey guys, Atlas Shrug 383 here, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about a timing issue fix that I just completed on my Pietta 1860 Colt Army reproduction. This gun has given me problems ever since it was brand new, to be honest with you. I have done some prior videos on this gun on problems and attempted solutions to fix issues with it. However, until today, none of those issues were truly resolved. Now I believe the issues are truly resolved. But I want to talk about that. If you are into cap and ball revolvers, this is something to be aware of. And just to get things started, I'm a big cap and ball enthusiast. I love cap and ball revolvers, the reproductions. I'm not fortunate enough to have any originals or any real Colts, all of mine are reproductions. The reproductions are made in Italy, mostly. The big two nowadays are Uberti and Pietta. They make decent pistols. They're pretty faithful reproductions to the original. However, their price points are relatively low. There aren't a lot of people out there just lining up to buy these guns. There are people like you and I that are enthusiasts, but overall these are kind of a niche thing, and they try to keep the price point low. And trust me, quality control, kind of shaky with these things. And this one by far has given me more problems than any of the others that I own. And I bought this on sale. It was $237. About 2 years ago. Prices, they keep going up all the time. But it was on sale, Midway USA, $237, brand new. And right from the beginning, it gave me issues. So I want to talk about those issues really quick, and then I'll talk about the solution. So right out of the box, this pistol, it was missing a cone. Right out of the box. One of the cones, one of the nipples just was gone, wasn't in the cylinder. So when I first pulled it out of the box, I'm like, wow, did nobody look at this thing, But it's no big deal. I've got plenty of them, and I usually replace them anyway. So no big deal. So the first time I took this thing out to the range, I had issues with the cylinder locking up between shots. I didn't know what was causing it. The cylinder, I could feel a dragging sensation in the cylinder. When I was pulling the hammer back, I could feel a drag in there. But I didn't know at the time why. And then I had it out to the range, and half cock just stopped working. The bolt wouldn't drop down at half cock anymore. It just would spring up. I lost my half cock. So this is why. I had a bad hammer. And what I'm going to do is switch the camera over now, and we're going to look at these parts and talk about these issues a little bit more. And I hope this helps somebody, because like I said, these pistols, quality control is all over the place. Some of them are really, really good, and you won't have any issues with them. And some of them, like this one's kind of a lemon, but I kind of like problems. And so crazy as that sounds, I like to solve problems. It's kind of the fun of it, And let's dive in. Just a real quick intro to my Pietta 1860 Colt Army Repro. Really happy with the looks of it, the aesthetic. I really like these. I like the 1860 Army and 1861 Navy. And so I like this, the rounded barrel and the sleekness to it and the ratcheted loading lever. For some reason, to me, I'm fond of those. I know a lot of diehard 1851 design, purists and everything, and that's cool. I like them too, but this is my favorite design by far. And this is just your basic 1860 Army. Love how Pietta puts their print right on the side there. I like Uberti, they put theirs underneath the barrel between the loading lever, and so it's a little bit outside, but that's okay. It's not that big of a deal. This one has the simulated color case hardening on the steel frame. I like the steel frames a lot. Of course, this one has the brass trigger guard. most of the 1860 Armies do. Some of the 61 Navies, there were London models and so forth. Some of those have steel trigger guards, but the 1860 Army is mostly brass. You know, I've done a lot with this one. You can see even on the cylinder where my cylinder stop has been a little out of time there and has dragged. It's left a drag mark on the cylinder. All right, so what's the problem? Well, as I was telling you earlier, I lost half cock. This was my original hammer that came on it. And you can see it has that simulated color case hardened look to it. My replacement hammer that I bought is just kind of a black powder coat. It's not case hardened. When I lost half cock, basically what happened is, let me get something to point with here. My cam on my hammer sheared off. A little piece right here became damaged somehow. I don't know if it wasn't hardened properly or what the issue was, but you see the metal right here, it just is sheared off. And so when my bolt, sorry about that, sorry for moving the camera around so much. When my bolt was coming down here to the half cock position, the ear was just sliding off because for some reason the metal just, it chipped off, sheared off. So there's no solution for that other than a new hammer. I did hear that there was a batch of defective hammers from Pietta, and that maybe that's what this was. Some hammers weren't properly hardened and so forth, and maybe that's it. But I kept this just for educational purposes, but it's, you know, this hammer will still work, but just half cock doesn't work on it. So I kept it around. So I replaced those parts. However, I continued to have dragging issues. I had issues where everything was working fine on the revolver when it was unloaded, but when I loaded it up and put caps on, then it would start dragging and locking up in some cases. I would, you know, pull the hammer back, let it down, and try to pull it again, and right about here, it would just start locking up. And the only way to resolve that is to knock the wedge out, remove the barrel assembly, and then give it a little space. And then the trigger and the bolt would reset. So I finally figured out what the problem was. The relationship between the hammer and the bolt and the trigger, you know, are fundamental in how these pistols operate. They are simple. I mean, these things are very simple. They don't have a lot of parts in them. I like that about them. Modern pistols are much more complex. They're much more reliable. But when a problem arises on these types of pistols, it's a little easier to find out what's going on. So I took the pistol apart, I took it down, and I started looking up in the action. Basically, when you remove the handle, and you remove the main spring, and then remove the trigger guard and the back strap and frame here, you can see up inside the frame. And if you move the bolt spring out of the way, there's a forked spring in there. There's a forked spring. I've got an extra one over here. This is the bolt spring. You know, this is what puts tension on the bolt and on the trigger. I started looking up in there with a bright light and I could see what was happening. So basically, when I was pulling this hammer back, the new hammer would go into half cock correctly. Everything was fine, all the way back to full cock. Everything was working good. But when I released the hammer down, it wasn't resetting. What this bolt does when the hammer drops back down is when the hammer goes back to its, you know, basic position here, the bolt is supposed to slide up and lock into place. And you can hear it. You can hear it when it does that. And I'll demonstrate on this one. Full cock. Now listen carefully. I'm going to release it. Listen for the click. Hear that? That's the click I'm talking about. That's the reset. All right. So what that sound is, as I mentioned, that is the bolt resetting back on top of this cam. So what I did to resolve that situation is because you want it to reset, and when you have caps on the cones, the hammer doesn't sit down quite this far. It's, you know, it's a little bit back, and that's what the hammer needs to go forward far enough to do the reset. So I took a Dremel tool, and the ear that rides this cam, it's the ear on the left. If you're looking at it this way, it's on the left. See, it's got a little bevel on the front of that ear. And kind of, there you go. Now we can see it a little bit. See that shiny part there on the top of the ear? It's got a little bevel on it so that it interacts with the cam correctly. I took a Dremel tool and I took metal off this ear on the back right here. And I kind of tried to bevel it a little bit too. I didn't cut it straight. I cut it a little bit of an angle. And it took me 3 tries because I didn't want to take too much metal off. If you take too much metal off, of course, you know, you can ruin the part. So it's better to take your time and do a few different sweeps with it. But I removed some there. I even removed a little bit off the bevel here. And then I kept putting it back together. I kept putting it back in the frame and watching it. And eventually, I saw it start snapping into place. And it's snapping into place in a good place. If you listen now, when the hammer's coming down, it should snap into place when it's about even with the frame. When it's about even with the frame, that's before you know that it would contact the cap. Listen. See there? It's resetting, and then boom. Here we go. Excellent. That's exactly what I want it to do. And I took some caps out and tested it, and I don't have any more dragging. It's actually smoother than it's ever been. Perfect, perfect. So all it takes is a little troubleshooting, but long story short, if you get one and you feel dragging inside, most likely that's the culprit. Because as you're moving the hammer back and forth, this contact part right here is interacting. And if something's not working right, most likely that's the problem. Could be something else, but that's a good place to check. And I hope that helps somebody. Please like my video and subscribe to my channel if you like black powder content. We'll try to get some shooting videos up before long. I know I always say that, but then I don't make it to the range, and unfortunately I can't shoot at my house. So yeah, thanks for watching. God bless.